Hopefully this will just be a quick look at the impact of the proposed 5.5% pay rise on the teacher's pension, and in particular the impact on the final salary schemes. 5.5% pay rise sounds like it's going to have a good impact on the final salary, but maybe not. The School Teachers Review Body has reported that a 5.5% pay rise across all scales and responsibilities should be implemented from September 2024. And we can see this on page 1 of their report. Of interest though, particularly in respect to the final salary pensions, is the acknowledgement that there has been a deterioration of teachers' pay over many, many years. This has been the case for well over a decade. And because of this and the way the final salary pension looks at the last 10 years, it's been having an adverse impact on the pension as well. So I want to look and see whether this 5.5% pay rise is actually going to have any benefit. It's going to redress that balance, that loss that's been going on. So let's look at somebody who has been at the top of the upper pay scale. So they've been on 46,525. And if we look at their statement, we can see that their method B shows just how far their pay has deteriorated over the years. It shows, this is from UPS 3, somebody who's been on UPS 3 for 10 years. The method B says that if they'd maintained pace with inflation, their salary would be 49,500. That's around about £3,000 loss over time. So how far does this 5.5% pay rise go in making up for this? Well, it raises the salary from September to just over 49,000. Just over. It doesn't catch up with that current method B value. And it looks as though it is a few £100 behind it. It looks as though it's a few £100 behind it, but no. Method B uses inflation to revalue the salaries. And take a look at this date. The method B has had inflation added to last March or last April. And so it is owed more inflation. Indeed, this new salary of £49,000 doesn't get factored in full into the calculation of your final salary pension until it's been paid for a full 12 months. Up until then, you've got 1 month at 49,000 and 11 months at that old 46,500. As you get to October, you've got 2 months on the new salary, 10 months on the old salary. It takes a whole year before your final salary becomes that £49,084. And your method B has not been standing still in that time. It's already owed 5 months to now of inflation. By the time you get to use your full salary next August, it'll be owed another 12 months. So that method B, by the time we get to August 2025 next year, is going to be owed 17 months worth of inflation. If we look at inflation and say, well, let's say inflation is about 2% a year. If we add on, say, 2%, add on 3% because it's nearly 1.5 years, then that jumps, method B plus inflation to the same point, jumps to 50,900. That's now nearly £2,000 difference. So your current pay rise, and what you're currently in, as long as you don't go up a pay scale, is still going to be about £2,000 or significantly below the method B that you've already got. Don't be fooled by the fact that it's not showing as method B. Method B only shows up to its value from last March. That is if you can keep those best 3 years. Remember we said that pays have been deteriorating over the last 10. You'll notice that in this method B, those salaries came from 2014. And if you go into 2024, September 2024, we're going to start losing them because they get too old to be used. They can't be used anymore. If you're looking at method B and you've got salaries involved from 2014, then do take a look at my other video called The Pay Plateau that goes into how you can protect those older salaries. And it's not just for those at the top of the UPS scale. It can be anybody who has been stuck at the same pay scale, the main pay scale, where you've got a school that's refusing to move you up to the upper pay range, or you've been on a TLR, or you're on senior leadership scale and you've reached the top of that scale. because that is where the 5.5%, if you're going up a pay scale, then you get the increase for the pay scale and the 5.5%. That can make a difference, and I'll come onto that a bit later. So in here, this is the method B for somebody who's been at the top of the main pay scale. And one of the things to notice here is that if we add that, we've got a difference there that method B is about 2,300 better than the current pay scale. You will notice, however, that these years come from 2019 to 2021. You've got to check what years yours come from. This is a quirk of the fact that they've tried to flatten the pay scales. They brought the lower pay scales up. They gave more for the main pay scale than they did for the upper pay range. You know, you've got those extra, trying to tempt people in at the beginning and get them hooked and get them in, and then hopefully hang on to them. Although they don't seem to be doing a lot to try and retain teachers. So if we add on the 5.5% pay rise, it goes up. However, it's still not as high as the method B. And that's without adding on that inflation figure again. Remember, it's still owed inflation. We can add on inflation. We add on inflation again about 3%. Then we're not 2,000 more, about 1,300 more, but it's still more. Do check if those years are at risk. If they are at risk, if they're 2014, 2015, then this academic year you probably want to be looking to take action. Go back to the pay plateau video to show you how to do that. So will the 5.5% pay rise do your final salary pension any favours? So in this case, I mean, I showed you upper pay scale and I've showed you a main pay scale, but of course you've got to look at your own figures and work them out for yourselves. So look at your pay and see what it is when you add on the 5.5% pay rise. Then find this, it's on page 5 of your statement, the calculation that shows you what your best final salary is. It's method B. I put question marks in there. And then I would say you want to add about 3% of that. Now, there's no guarantees because we don't know what inflation is, but a 2% is kind of the minimum expectation. And so over 1.5 years, 3%, we don't know. So this is a little bit of fortune, a little bit of guesswork. If this is higher than your new pay, then that method B is likely to stay higher so long as you don't lose those best years from that calculation. You know, these would be lost at 1st of September 2014. If I don't take a break before September 2014, those are going to be lost. Do look at my pay plateau video that explains how to protect those. So we do need to do quite a bit of fortune telling to help us work out if the pay rise is going to help the pension or not. We only have to look ahead 1 year. We only have to look to the end of August 2025. It's because the final salary method A is the last 12 months. You've got to have a full 12 months, and that takes us to the end of August. So you get the pay rise in September, even if they don't give it to you until December and then backdate it. If they get it from September, it's going to take you to the end of August to have that paid in full. So we have current pay plus 5% in 12 months takes us to the end of August 2025. Then we look at method B, and method B, well, we've got those 17 months worth of inflation. We don't know what it is, so guess, add on 3%, see what that brings you to, and make that comparison. Remember, it is 17 months because we're adding inflation from when inflation stopped being added, March 2024. So I hope this video has helped you understand whether the pay rise you are getting is going to be good for your final salary, or whether you might need to take action at some point to protect that method B and allow it to stay ahead of your actual salary.